As I'm sure you're all no doubt aware, Gordon Brown wants to increase national insurance on jobs. How far do you all agree, as Alistair Darling has himself said, that this will discourage employers from hiring more people and will cost jobs?
Chris, would you like to take that question?
The reality of the situation is that we're in a desperate position in terms of government finances. We are wholly opposed to slashing public services. And I'm afraid if there is a direct choice to be made between cutting public services or cutting taxation, then, sorry, I should rephrase that perhaps. The choice seems to be either we cut public spending to try and save, or we try and keep the spending at the level as it is and protect the services that we've got. My view is that we must protect the sorts of services that we've got, and I'm afraid, to a degree, business must take part of the responsibility. I'm not entirely convinced that it's going to cost jobs. I certainly am convinced that slashing public services will cost jobs, cost a very great deal of jobs, which will impact communities across the country.
Thank you very much, Chris. Mark, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, sure. Well, on public service cuts, I think the Liberal Democrats are the only party that have talked about making savage cuts in public spending, Chris. That was your leader. And in fact, actually, the national insurance tax rise doesn't just hit businesses, it actually hits anyone who employs people. It would cost the NHS £200 million. It would cost every school probably getting on for 1% of their budget. I know when I was a governor at a school, at Newent School, and we saw the national insurance rise in 2001, that directly took money out of that school budget and led to cuts in money spent on books and other facilities. So a national insurance tax rise doesn't just hit private sector employers, but it actually hits public sector as well. It takes out 1% from the pay bill across every organisation that employs people. And our view is, by cutting out some of the waste, which the government has admitted exists, this year, we can avoid that tax on jobs. A huge number of business people, not just big businesses, but thousands of small and medium businesses across the country, including those here in the Forest of Dean, are convinced that that national insurance tax rise will cost jobs, and they want to avoid it at all costs. And I think that's entirely the right policy.
Thank you. Tim, would you like to take that question?
There is a huge amount of waste in public spending. For example, there's a lot of waste in our European budget. At the moment, we spend £45 million a day in money given to the European Union. And by the way, that's going to rise in the next few years because of the weakness of the present government in not maintaining the rebate that Mrs. Thatcher secured in the 1980s. There's a lot of waste. If we left the European Union, we could reduce taxes because we weren't spending money in this way. We wouldn't need to raise national insurance. Everybody's in favour of small business. The cost of collecting VAT for small business is quite serious. Actually, I just set up a business a year ago and I do it all myself. I mean, VAT is a pain in the neck. And many people don't go through the £70,000 limit because it actually causes them a lot of bother. National insurance is a pain in the neck for small business too. We need to control public spending. We can certainly get rid of the spending on the European Union if we just get out of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. Bruce, would you like to take that?
Well, quite clearly, with the deficit that we have at the moment, we are not going to tackle that deficit by cuts in public services or even the savings that can be made. But they're much more difficult if you're actually in control of a body, and I see the leader of our local district council here. You know, he's working hard to find savings, and it's not easy in public services. But we have a choice. We can increase the basic rate of income tax, or the bands of income tax, and the government has already decided to increase income tax for the most wealthy. We could we could increase VAT. That hits disproportionately the poorest people who have to spend the greatest proportion of their income. Or we could increase national insurance. Now, none of them are particularly attractive propositions, but national insurance is a tax on people at work and people who are employing people at work, not a tax on people who are not at work, not a tax on pensioners. And so of a number of unfortunate options, I think it's the least worst option. But the fact is that once that recovery is set, we're all going to have to pay more taxes one way or another.
Thank you, Bruce and James.
I think this national insurance debate is actually a bit of a red herring. It's something that allows the old parties and the established parties to look as if they're arguing over something. And it is a huge amount of money. But the state of our economy and the state of our finances is actually far, far worse than the £6 billion that's being talked about here. And I think we have some very serious issues coming over the horizon towards us. We're a totally carbon-dependent economy, and I think we're going to see the price of the oil price continue to rise markedly, and I think this economy is in real trouble. And I think we've got to get used to it, I'm afraid. And I think that all this talk about fiddling with a bit here and fiddling with a bit there is actually really leading us all up the garden path. It is not a solution to tinker. We have to make some very, very major changes.
Thank you very much.